Dangote's Make in Africa plan, a story of industrial renaissance. In the heart of Africa, a continent brimming with untapped potential and natural wealth, Aliko Dangote, one of its most visionary leaders, dared to imagine a future that broke away from dependence and embraced self-reliance. This future was not just a distant dream, but a practical roadmap, the Make in Africa plan. It was more than a business strategy. It was a clarion call for an industrial awakening, a renaissance that would redefine the continent's economic destiny. Instead of simply being a consumer of imported goods, Africa would become a producer of high-value products, manufacturing materials, and finished goods from its own abundant resources and underutilized infrastructure. At the core of Dangote's Africa growth and manufacturing plan lay a simple but powerful principle: import substitution with an export ambition. By harnessing Africa's vast reserves of feedstocks such as natural gas, limestone, salt, urea, and refinery byproducts, and by making intelligent use of the existing logistics networks, ports, pipelines, and roads, the plan sought to ignite a virtuous cycle of industrialization. But this was not reckless optimism. The approach was deliberate and strategic, with capital expenditures staggered carefully over time. Each phase was designed to build capabilities and financial momentum for the subsequent one, ensuring sustainable growth without undue risk. The 10 Pillars of Possibility: Manufacturing Africa's Future. Dangote's team meticulously identified 10 key manufacturing clusters that held the promise of transforming Africa's industrial landscape. These were not arbitrary selections. They were sectors where Africa's natural resources and market demand intersected most profoundly. I know that many of you kind viewers enjoy my video content, but rarely provide feedback or suggestions for future videos. However, I would really appreciate it if you could share your comments and ideas for improvement. What a delightfully cheery chap. Smash that like button like it stole your lunch and subscribe before your grandma does it first. Glass and soda ash cluster. Africa's dependence on importing vast quantities of glass, from flat and container glass to specialized solar panels, was an unnecessary drain on foreign exchange. The raw materials for producing glass were plentiful: salt, limestone, natural gas, and even CO2, which could be captured from cement kiln emissions. The plan commenced with the establishment of a soda ash plant, utilizing the Solvay process, an industrial method that captured CO2 from cement flue gases while recycling ammonia from existing fertilizer production units. This innovative symbiosis not only cut emissions, but also maximized resource efficiency. Subsequent stages involved constructing float and container glass furnaces at Lekki, Nigeria's growing industrial hub, followed by solar-grade glass manufacturing and fiberglass production. To ensure world-class standards, global heavyweights such as Asahi Glass and Saint-Gobain were engaged as partners, bringing technical expertise and access to global markets. Tap like and subscribe like you're avoiding doing your homework. Fast and furious. Chlor-alkali complex, chlor-alkali products, including caustic soda and chlorine, are fundamental to numerous industries, from textiles and paper to water treatment and oil refining. Leveraging Dangote's access to salt and captive power plants, the plan envisioned a membrane cell electrolysis chlor-alkali facility. Chlorine would feed water treatment plants to improve public health and sanitation, while the hydrogen byproduct would be captured for use as clean fuel or chemical feedstock, maximizing resource value. Initial stages involved PVC resin imports, with plans to scale into ethylene production locally, allowing full integration into the plastics value chain, including compounding and pipe extrusion. If you liked this video, hit the like button. If you loved it, subscribe and prepare for greatness. Plastics Conversion Park. Dangote's existing plants produce polypropylene and polyethylene on a commercial scale, but the value lies in converting these polymers into usable products. The Plastics Conversion Park would focus on manufacturing films, crates, geomembranes, and pipes, driven by contracts with fast-moving consumer goods companies, and the agricultural sector. This segment was identified as a swift, low-capital expenditure growth engine capable of delivering quick cash flow and employment opportunities. Bitumen and asphalt solutions. The continent's massive infrastructure deficit, notably in roads, roofing, and waterproofing solutions, created high demand for quality bitumen products. With direct access to refinery streams, the plan aimed to produce polymer-modified bitumen, a superior material for durability, alongside roofing shingles and waterproofing membranes. Coupled with cement and rebar production, these offerings would provide governments and engineering, procurement and construction companies, EPCs, with integrated building materials to accelerate infrastructure projects. Fertilizer specialties. While bulk urea fertilizer had been produced domestically, the plan sought to diversify into more specialized fertilizers, including NPK blends tailored for local soil needs, coated fertilizers for slow release, and crop-specific micronutrient fortification. Additionally, diesel exhaust fluid, DF or AdBlue, would be produced to support cleaner diesel engines and reduce vehicle emissions. Importantly, the plan included agronomy advisory services and seasonal credit facilities to empower farmers, increasing yields sustainably across Africa's fertile agro-belts. Methanol to resins platform. Natural gas would be converted initially to methanol and thereafter transformed into formaldehyde and specialized resins critical to the furniture and construction industries. Partnering with global experts like Johnson Matthey and Dynia, Dangote envisaged supplying plywood, medium-density fiberboard, MDF, and particle board processors. This would support the fast-growing African construction boom while reducing the continent's reliance on expensive imports, gypsum, and low-carbon cement. To address the environmental impact of traditional cement manufacturing, the plan included producing gypsum and low-carbon clinker substitutes, such as limestone calcined clay cement, LC3. Using refinery byproducts and synthetic gypsum, the project also aimed at producing plasterboard as alternatives to drywall. These initiatives would decarbonize building materials and create full wall system solutions, including insulation and joint compounds, offered in integrated building packages to developers seeking sustainable and affordable construction technologies. Ceramics and sanitary ware. Nigeria and West Africa are richly endowed with clays and kaolin, materials suitable for tiles, sanitary fixtures, and tableware. Using energy-efficient gas-fired kilns, the plan proposed local manufacturing of these products, bundled for distribution alongside cement and piping. This cluster addressed housing and infrastructure needs, creating jobs in manufacturing and trade. Gas-based steel. With urbanization and industrial growth soaring, the demand for construction steel was exploding. Dangote's model centered on direct reduced iron, DRI, technology paired with electric arc furnaces, EAF, to produce rebar and wire rod, essential in construction. Over time, this would expand to rolled steel sections. Access to natural gas, scrap metal, and port facilities would enable competitive production costs, building a steel backbone critical to Africa's infrastructure agenda. Paper and packaging. Using recycled paper, the plan set out to produce containerboard and tissue paper, sectors linked to fast-moving consumer goods and agriculture supply chains. Corrugated box manufacturing would initially serve Dangote's logistics requirements, but would also be marketed externally. Virgin fiber would be explored later as recycling and forestry initiatives matured, ensuring the long-term sustainability of this segment. Energy and mobility enablers powering Africa's future. Beyond raw materials and components, the Make in Africa plan recognized that a modern industrial ecosystem depends on responsive energy and transport solutions. To this end, solar photovoltaic module assembly lines would be established to capitalize on Africa's abundant sunlight and power decentralization efforts. Battery pack assembly for two-wheelers addressed the mobility needs of millions, making affordable electric transport practical in urban and rural settings. Equally important was the build-out of LPG ecosystems, producing cylinders, stoves, and valves, to accelerate the shift away from biomass cooking fuels, improving health and reducing deforestation. These adjacent industries offered strong environmental, social, and governance (ESG) benefits aligned with Africa's development and climate goals. The execution roadmap. Phased industrial growth. The plan was designed with a phased execution strategy, ensuring manageable investment levels and growing complexity. Phase 1, 0-24 months. Focus on quick win, low capital projects including plastics conversion, bitumen products, fertilizers, recycled paper and LPG stoves to generate positive cash flow early, proving the model and building confidence. Phase 2, 2-5 years. Medium capex ventures such as chlor-alkali production, glass manufacturing, gypsum and ceramics, and methanol-based resin production deepen industrial capabilities and start producing higher value goods. Phase 3, 5-8 years. Heavy capital-intensive projects, Solar glass production, gas-based steel mills, and panelboard factories anchor long-term industrial resilience and begin to compete aggressively in regional and global export markets.